DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
All right, good evening, everyone. It is time to talk gear. Rick, you ready?
Yes. Well, gear is everyone's favorite subject, so this should be a great one.
This should be. I mean, really, you and I we don't even need to be here. We just have to flash pictures of gear, and they would be like, oh, this is the bestest show ever.
Yeah, the chat will go wild, and they'll argue and complain about which company's better, and no, this light, no, this speaker, no, this.
And then it's like, no. But yeah, so tonight what we're going to be doing, ladies and gentlemen, is we both have gone through and we picked out, each of us have picked out 5 of our kind of favorite things that were hot in 2018. And then there's a couple of bonus ones we're going to be covering. Because I actually, since our last chat or last discussion about this, Rick, I found there's another one I've got to find because it's been kind of a cool thing and it completely slipped my mind. So I'll find that while we're talking and then bounce that into our show or bounce that in later. So thank you guys for joining us. We've got Facebook running. There we are. Yes, that one is up and running, and YouTube is there. Good deal.
Awesome.
Brian, you can't ask how much it is until we talk about a piece of gear.
What was that question?
Brian has, how much is it? I'm trying to see if anybody mentioned gear. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. They're talking to PV pricing. Okay. 2 seconds to talk about pricing. Because we get a lot of Chinese companies that are trying to do direct business with the Disc Jockey News and some of the companies, I get to hear a lot of this. What's happening right now in the DJ industry is a lot of the Chinese companies that are supplying are eating part of the tariff. There's a 10% tariff right now, somewhere between 6 and 10, depending upon what you're buying. The companies are eating part of that tariff, so it's only being a couple, 2 or 3 percentage points is what we're seeing right now. What happens after the first of the year when a 25% tariff kicks in? We don't know. So for companies who are telling you that, oh my God, the 10% and you've got to pass that along, may not be completely accurate as of this point in time. Because again, I think that I saw in this past week 5 different Chinese companies saying, hey, here's a press release saying that we're taking and eating part of the tariff. I mean, the highest I saw, one of them is eating 6.5% of the tariff. So that means only 3.5% is being passed on to the U.S. company. There. Now that we've covered that, since we were talking about. Okay, so Rick, I'm going to have you start since you've got your list up in front of you there. What's one of the pieces of gear that in 2018 was just kind of a hot piece of gear for DJs?
So I formulated a list here of different varieties. So we got lights, we got mixers, and we got speakers, and some bonus stuff that's not related to that.
Nice.
I figured those are the main categories of gear that everyone wants to buy, other than like cables and lesser stuff that you just kind of need to buy.
Yeah.
So gear are the stuff that we like to talk about: lighting, speakers, mixers. So let's see, where do I want to start here? Let's start with the lights. So I got lights from multiple companies here. The first light, and this is by far over the course of owning them, has come to be my favorite light, and I take it out to pretty much every gig, regardless of what the gig is. And that is the Chauvet Wash FX, and preferably the Wash FX 2s now. The 2 is by far, I was amazed how much over the first one it was. So if you guys are unfamiliar, the Wash FX 2 is a fixture. I meant to bring it in, and I'm walking away from the mic. So it's a big fixture, and it's got a bunch of diodes on it, and it's basically a super bright, even wash fixture with, I believe, 180 by 100 degrees of coverage. RGB UV, doesn't have amber, doesn't have white, but it's not a game changer. But I use them all the time. I take 2 of them out to weddings. That's basically the low end package I take now. I take 2 of those out to weddings. I DMX them down completely to like 0 brightness because they're just way too bright. And then I can kick them up to full brightness and go and light up a whole entire gym for a homecoming of 400 kids. So that's my first product.
So you're aiming those down at the crowd, I would guess, or are you using them as a
from high?
Okay, from very high.
Depends on where they're at. If they're up high on trussing, I can aim them down a little bit. If they're on top of my speakers for a wedding, I aim them up into the ceiling. I don't want to blind people.
Yeah, they're very, very bright. I saw Jeremy Breck use those in Atlantic City, and 2 of them on the ceiling covered the whole ceiling. Yeah. And you mentioned how even the cover or even the lighting was. Yeah, those are very, very impressive lights. Good one to start with. That was definitely a hot light.
That's the first one.
Well, I'm kind of bouncing back and forth between lighting and audio. So I'm going to go start with audio since you went lighting. My pick is one of the hot devices. And of course I could go with the one, and I think Rick's going to be covering this one, so I'm not going to touch that audio system. But I'm going to talk about the RCF, the J8 and the J Mix 8. 2 of their little array systems that they came out with. It has a 12-inch sub and the little array on top. And specifically the J8. I used both of them. I ended up buying myself another J8 because the mix is nice, but I don't care for the mixer because I want speakers. I don't need a ceremony system because I bring a mixer and do my ceremony that way. So I have the mixer on my table, not on a speaker. Great little speaker, lightweight, has a lot of thump and a lot of kick and such. Doesn't quite sound as good as others, but it's a little cheaper than others. So you got your trade-off. You're saving a little money, but you're not quite getting as good a sound as some of the others, but it still does a really nice job. And it's plastic, so when I did that outdoor wedding, when it rained and the water came in onto the side of the tent, plastic speaker, plastic box sitting in a 1/2 inch of water, so it never even got into the cabinet, but the bottom of the cabinet was sitting in water. Didn't care. Didn't bother me whatsoever. So the RCF J8, definitely a hot piece of gear, I think, for DJs this year.
And I think just to mention a hot trend with all these odd things we're going to be talking about is that, at least stating from an industry standpoint, a lot of these items we're going to be talking about, it is hard for dealers to keep them in stock right now.
True story. Yes.
I know the Wash FX2 is for sure. I'm pretty sure it's still out of stock right now on IDJ now.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna continue. I'm gonna talk about my second light and my other light. These are the only 2 lights I have on here. And that is the ADJ Mega Hex Pars. And I put this on there because it's the first time I really see a hex light being affordable finally for basically all levels of DJs. Hex has been typically a $200+ light unless you go Chinese brand. Besides the point. But the unveiling of ADJ's Mega Hex Par replacing the Mega Hex Tri-Par Plus or whatever that's called. I got like 10 of those too. But being a $100 fixture that has hex and you get all the quality benefits that ADJ stands behind compared to Chinese companies. So that's my second light.
And
an affordable hex fixture.
You can buy it in a hex pack, but those are a little 5 diode. You can buy the pack, and at the the different DJ conventions, great price on those. You can get a great price on those from others. I have 24 of those, and I would use those for proms. The prom this past spring, and I absolutely loved them. And I'm a huge fan of the 5P from American DJ. I have the 5Ps and love those lights. What I liked about the Mega Hex is I've got the same equivalent light, not quite, but it's very, very, very close. I mean,
it's bright enough.
Yeah, and they're half the weight. You try carrying 10 of the 5Ps. That's a metal housing, and it's a beefy unit. And I can stack them up and drive the truck on top of them if I need to change a tire, type of a thing. But it's the weight part of it. After using those, is like, oh yeah. So the Mega Hex, great pick indeed. This one's from a little bit, it's part of last year, but it really came on, and I was hearing a lot of people talk about this. The Newmark DJ To Go 2 became one of those things that people were just picking up at the different shows and putting it in their backpack as a backup controller. It allows you to be able to hook up and run virtual DJ or Serato or pretty much anything that's MIDI mappable. You can use it for the software. There's audio. There's 2 audio outs. You've got every headphone. You have your master out. It's not the greatest quality, but it's a $80 controller with 2 audio outputs that function. So in emergency, it works. Small, yeah, that was one I was hearing. And it wasn't anything that people were really like, oh my gosh, look at this brand new, like they do with the Pioneer 1000, like this is they weren't doing that. They were like, hey, I got one. And this is actually pretty cool for what it is. So the Newmark DJ To Go 2, I think, was a hot piece of gear this past year.
Definitely was. A lot of people picked that up. So since you talk about mixer, I'm going to talk about my mixer here. And my mixer of choice for the hot gear was the Pioneer DJ SX3.
Good unit.
A great upgrade over the SX2. Basically, it was like they took the SZ and put it into the SX format. And I haven't picked one up yet, but I'm looking at getting one for sure.
Yeah, definitely a nice looking unit.
So it's basically the SX2. They improved the mic outputs on it. They allowed you to now use 2 laptops instead of 1. So you can flip back and forth easily between DJs. And I think those are pretty much the 2 main features I think I remember.
And I think the one that we shouldn't over the mic inputs, that they really brought those up a level. And what are mic preamps on a controller? Typically, that's not where they focus on. They want to focus on the functionality of the music performance. They really don't care because DJs don't use microphones, which as a mobile DJ, we do now. So that was one of the cool things that Pioneer did, is they really upped the game on those mic preamps in that controller. And then, of course, having 2 laptops. I thought when I first saw that a couple of years ago, I thought, that's kind of stupid. I'm not a club DJ, so why would I want that? Yeah. I have one laptop set here as the main play. The other one is plugged in as a backup. If something happens to this one, click, click, and I'm on my other laptop just that quick. So, good pick, good piece of gear there. Let's see. I'm going to jump to lighting, and this is actually something that we just talked about with Jim. Jim Pullman here with our last show, talking about Bluetooth lights and Shoei with their BT Air, specifically that BT Air app that can control their color. Their slim bar and their slim pars. Just a really nice way to get started in lighting. If you aren't wanting to go and learn DMX and do light, you want to have a few lights and do some simple, quick things. The Bluetooth capability of those lights is very, very cool. I'm really hoping, Rick, that at NAMM we're going to see more brought into that family of lights.
I've heard them talking about what they want to bring into that, especially at Expo. They were talking about the fixtures they want to get into past these par lights, and if they can get into them and get them to work the way they say, it's going to be. I'm excited to see them.
Yeah, I've been very happy. I mean, there are some little bumps a little bit here. Sometimes the lights aren't all in sequence, but I've not had a situation, and when I've run those, I've used them for 6 events now at different testing and such. I've never had a situation where like one was completely dead or one was completely unresponsive. It might be that I hit a chase and that maybe they're not changing sequential, but the guests are like, they would have never said, oh yeah, wow, that one was red, then that one went red, then that one went blue, then that one went blue. They don't care. But,
the local DJ here, I've actually been out on a couple weddings with him. He owns the 12P thing, or I don't know if you call it 12P. He's got 16 of those, and he absolutely loves them. Yeah. He takes them out to all of his weddings, and I messed around with the app at the thing, and it's like you said, it's a good hybrid between DMX and Sound Active.
Yeah, very much so.
It makes it so easy to use too.
Yeah, I've been very, very, very impressed with that, and I think I've heard the same things you did at Expo. So it'll be that's one of the things I'm kind of excited to see what they've got going on at NAMM.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I'm going to jump into the speaker world, which is probably my favorite topic of any DJ gear, if anyone knows me. So let's see, which one do I want to talk about? Let's talk about the first one here. The LD Maui 5 Go.
Nice.
So I was introduced to this at Expo, and I was blown away and picked it up on the spot just for a battery-powered speaker at the price point that they are that they offer that. I forget what MSRP is. Is it $999?
I was going to say, I thought it was just a hair under $1,000. Yeah.
I think it's $999. They had Expo pricing, but this thing, I just recently, over the last 3 weekends, have really learned to love this speaker in terms of weddings, because my wedding market picked up towards the end there. I was in a lot of schools. So it's battery powered. The battery is not in the actual base of the speaker. It's one of the sticks, so you can buy a separate battery to just interchange with it and keep going. The battery lasts literally forever. I've been out at gigs using it for 5 hours plus now.
Nice.
And my favorite part about it is, and I'm going to probably implement this into all of my DJs as I grow, is bringing one of these to a gig regardless of if you need it or not, because it's just an amazing backup. What I've been doing is I've been doing some outdoor weddings lately. It's been kind of colder-ish out there, so the fire's been like the warm spot at these weddings, and we're down kind of in the south, so dancing's not amazingly hot of a thing down here, like it is up north. But so people went over to the fire, and my main rig is like 200 feet away. And instead of blaring that, I just grabbed my iPad with the DJ app, walked over there, Bluetoothed over to it because it has Bluetooth, set up the speaker, sat down, put the iPad on the back, let it play some mix. And you wouldn't believe how thrilled the brides and the grooms were that I had music down there for their guest at the fire.
Mm-hmm.
And then I took it a step further, the last one, and used Alto Stealth and streamed my system down there so that it was all even. So
nice. Yeah, I was wondering if you had
a very Swiss Army knife speaker, and a good price point. Swiss Army knife speaker. You can run a battery powered ceremony off of it. The key thing is it's battery powered. That's just awesome.
Yeah.
And you could just plop it down wherever and start playing music. So that is one of my favorite speakers that has been out now, and I know a lot of DJs have started to pick up on that trend as well.
One of the areas where I like to, and I have a couple of battery-powered speakers, but not the not that particular one, is when I'm doing an outdoor event, and it seems like at the end of an outdoor event, there's always people who are the drunk folks who are like wanting you to continue to go on forever and ever and ever. Mm-hmm. So I've been taking the battery-powered speaker and the iPad, Bluetooth connect, set that speaker down, and let it stream some like yacht rock, like we're going to talk about in the next show, but something that's basically that it's recognizable, but they're not going to dance to it. And use that music that's at a little lower volume to bring these people down while I'm breaking down. I break down 20 minutes later, and then go, speaker iPad, goodbye. And out the door I go, and they're like, where'd the music go? But now at least I'm not having that, that drunken crowd that are screaming at the top of their lungs, one more. So I've been a huge fan of that, and that for next year, that's actually the direction I want to get the Maui for that specific purpose, because I think that's going to have a better sound than what I'm using right now as a battery speaker. So cool.
Yeah, and that's exactly actually how I used it at the weddings too, because the fire was away from it. Went down there, set that up, let that play. Went up, broke down my whole entire rig, and by the time I was done with that, they were ready to leave. So I just went down, grabbed it, and left.
Yep, exactly.
Quick and easy.
It really works well. I'm going to keep in the speakers arena. I'm going to talk. This one was the release of the ELX 200 series speakers here from Electrovoice. In that line, they've got for tops, they have a 10, 12, and a 15, and they have the 18-inch sub and a 12-inch sub. The one that I find that I'm liking the most of this is I'm liking that two combinations, the 10 top over the 12 sub. That one we've actually used at a couple of weddings, smaller weddings for 100 people or less. So we had the 10 tops and the two 12-inch subs. The new version of the sub compared to the old version of the sub has noticeable output differences. So you have, in this case, 4 small speakers easily transported back seat of the car, and I think it could easily handle 150 people. Its output, I think, exceeds some of the array systems that are out there. The negative thing is that the array system has a wider dispersion. This doesn't, because they're a horn-loaded speaker. But the coolest part, I think, is the ability to manage the sound on your Bluetooth app. That I can have all 4 speakers dialed in, and I have it on the app, and I can see when they're getting to the point where they're starting to have the limit lights coming on. I can do some EQing things. I can shut one of them off and listen to, when I'm getting the thing audio set. all done via the Bluetooth app on that. So that. Everyone who has purchased those and have been playing with that have just been absolutely in love with it, because you can do the same thing with the Evolves also. But for people who like that horn-loaded speaker, the ELX 200 series has been a big hit this year.
I would agree. All right, I'm just going to keep going in the speaker category because I think this is my fifth now. This is my fifth? Yeah, this is the fifth one.
Yeah, you're starting at number 5. Yep, you're in 5.
So, my fifth one is still in the speaker company, and mine is the Avante series of speakers. If anyone knows me personally, originally when I heard these things coming out, I was like, this isn't worth it at all. And then I got to actually demo them at Expo, and I was pleasantly surprised at how well they were, and I linked up with them, and now I have a pair of them, and I was very impressed at what they're able to do now in that industry. And it's good to see another company now competing in the beginner speaker market, a quality company competing in the beginner speaker market. So originally you didn't really have too many people focusing on it, and it's good that they're starting out by focusing in that market specifically. They're not like some of the other companies that have a lot of the bigger end stuff, and those are kind of like their lesser lines that they're putting off to the side. This is actually their main line that right now that they're focusing on.
Yeah.
So
what did you end up
sound
getting?
quality was phenomenal. The controls on the back, the DSP was pretty on par to a lot of stuff, kind of like what you see in EV, not Bluetooth compatible, but I was definitely impressed for the amount of money they cost. It's definitely worth it, and it's good to see another competitor in that market.
Which one have you been able to play with then? The 12 or the 15?
15. I
Okay.
got 2 of the 15s.
Yeah,
I'm hopefully going to get a couple of the subs here to play with.
The 15s,
those are what I'm really excited about.
Yeah. When you put those together, they definitely. I mean, they sound good on their own. I played with the 12 here, and it alone by itself, it had a really good sound that a person could use at many events. There's no question about it. It's just one of those things at a 12 in that more of a beginner area. When people ask the question, do you need a sub with a 12? Yes, with the Avante, I do believe you are best served with that sub under. 15, different story. That's the 15. That has a surprising amount of output, and it has a nice, smooth across from top to bottom with the sound spectrum. So, yeah, for the price point and things, they definitely are in a great.
They definitely have it EQ'd correctly for what a DJ is going to want to hear.
Yeah.
Because I took it out and used them for my school like lunch promos that we do before their dance, like homecoming or prom. This was homecoming season, so just set up 2 of those at lunch. 100, 200 kids at lunch, just played music, just banged it out. It was plenty of bass. I was impressed.
Yeah, yep,
sounded great. Good
sound and a quick and easy. We'll have to come back and catch some questions here in the chat room. So. As we're kind of rolling down our list here, so you guys are, the chat's just going too fast to try to bounce back and forth. So, and we're getting towards the end of our list. My next one is actually moving away from speakers and lights. This is going back to something we saw at the Photo Booth Expo for the first time. I think I was there. Anyway, from Atlanta Photo Booth, they had the Rover Photo Booth, which is a little remote control photo booth. Yeah. It's a little. They've got they're like a race car type controller. The remote control car controller, and it can go around and they can actually be taking photos with this thing and working it around the room. We actually had, I got one sent up here because I wanted to test this out. So it's like, Steve, what is it going to take? And so we had one here, and it is just a really cool thing. Now, it's not great for all events. There's going to be some events where it just, an older couple wedding, that it's probably not going to be the coolest thing. But when you have the crowd where you have some younger people and you can drive that around, it's like it's a conversation piece, and people are jumping in front of it, and you're getting more people involved with it than you would at a traditional photo booth. So the Rover Photo Booth from Atlanta Photo Booth is something you guys definitely need to check out if you're thinking about it, because it's unique. Not everybody has that in your market, so something to check out.
Definitely. If you want to keep up with the Facebook chat, I've been keeping up with the YouTube. I've been writing down some questions I see.
Sounds good. Good.
So those are our top 5, and I couldn't I couldn't pin down 5. So I got 2 honor. I don't even know if you call them honorary mentions. These are just 2 additional ones that I also like to see
Excellent.
that are coming out.
Yep, do one, and I've got one more, and then you do the last one, and then we'll head to questions. Perfect.
Okay, so the 6th hot item that I saw that came out is Denon's Prime series. So finally, we have a competitor for Pioneer's reign in the CDJ and the pro end market. And it's definitely starting to catch on with a lot of the EDM DJs and the house DJs out there. I've noticed a lot of them are switching over to using the Denons. I got to play around with them at Expo. If I get that style mixer in the future, I'm probably going to get Denons. Just the usability is pretty incredible on those. What they're doing with their software on those, and just overall the usability of them, and they're lighter. Yeah, there's a key.
And Michael ended up. That's what he played with when he was in Atlantic City. My son.
True.
And here's a young man who's only been DJing, and he's been DJing on an 8000. So that the DJ controller. He was practiced with it here and there for the first couple of days, a few minutes here, a few minutes there, and he was good to go. I mean, there's a lot of capability, but for just getting into it and starting it, you can do it without having to know what absolutely everything does. And then you watch some of the guys who have been playing on those for a long time, and it's like, oh, that's a cool trick. A lot of bells and whistles. And now that they come out with the motorized platters, there's a couple of different options out there, and the prices come down. So definitely a hot piece of gear, and it's going in the right direction for DJs, that's for sure. My next one, this is actually something that Ben Stowe talked about last week a little bit. This is from Gator Frameworks. They came out this past year with their Quad Pod, which is basically like a speaker stand, but there's 4 legs on it, and this is meant for holding up to a 65-inch LCD or TV screen, monitor, what have you. They're portable TV stands, but they're a quad pod so that they won't tip and be all this. And they, at first, I didn't think too terribly much of it, and then Ben mentioned it a couple of weeks ago. And then I've been hearing people talk about these things, and they're like, "These are absolutely fabulous." More people have bought them than I know. It's another one of these little quiet things they're buying on the side. But the Gator Frameworks Quad Pod, you can go and check those out. Ben's got a really great deal on those right now. I think that more DJs than I knew had gotten into these because it can be in a little backpack, or not a backpack, but a little bag. You get there, set it up, your monitor's there, and it's stable, which is a really important thing when you're dealing with dances and such. So, yeah, that is my last pick.
Very interesting. I didn't know that existed either.
Yeah. I knew it was there, but I didn't realize how popular it had become until you start talking, and people are like, "Yeah, I've got one, or I got 2, or one guy, I've got 8 of them. I run them like all around the room." I did not know. So,
okay. My last pick, and again, another thing at Expo, and I actually knew about it, but I actually got to see it at Expo. And one thing, branding as a DJ is more popular than ever in 2018. Being able to basically have your own clothing, branding yourself, that sort of stuff. Social media, you see it everywhere. So my pick is the Jetpack backpacks.
Oh, nice.
One, because it's a backpack designed specifically for the needs of a DJ, and I'm blown away now that I've been using mine for about a month now. And 2, you can brand it, so it's a win-win on both sides. And I know a lot of DJs are starting to pick them up, and they're really loving these backpacks.
And for those who are wondering how it's branded or what's different between that and another, first off, it's a well-built backpack. There's no question about it. Do you have your, Rick, go grab it, please. But what they've done is they actually have in the front, because he has it embroidered, and they have a zip, a spot to open, so you can actually, the embroiderer can go and they can get inside there to be able to put the back parts in that they need, so they can actually embroider to it. So it's a kind of a cool thing that they can do that, and yet the pocket on the inside still functions. And of course, they've got different versions of it, and they've got for some that can carry controllers, some that are doing this, that, and the other thing. Definitely a great backpack. This is if I wouldn't have just spent $200 on backpacks this year, I looked at that and I was like so close. It's like, no, I just dropped a bunch of money on backpacks for this year. But I think I've got a 15-year-old who was looking at that, and he's like, "Yeah, if I get a logo, Dad." Yeah, well, we'll talk later. Who makes that again?
Orbit Concepts is the name of the company that is with Jetpacks. Jetpacks is the brand, but Orbit Concepts is who owns it. And there's some stuff that I didn't even notice until I just recently flew with it. They have like a little slot on the back that you can slide over your suitcase, so it stays on your suitcase.
Yeah, on a handle. Yeah.
And then when you go through TSA, the laptop portion, you don't have to take your laptop out. You just unzip it and fold it out.
Nice.
So, and then you just zip it back up on the other end. So that was kind of cool.
I like that.
Things like that.
Yeah, but they definitely had some. They were going through and giving me all the different little things on that, and you're like, oh wow, that's kind of cool. I never thought about that. Yeah.
It's got a pen holder. I was like, yeah, and a business card holder. I'm like, you don't realize that until you start using the backpack, and you're like, how many times people ask for business cards and you got to go digging for your bag versus it's just right there.
I hate that. And I've got a couple of the Ariba cases that have the little card holders in the top of it. So I've got, it used to be my mirror ball bag was one of them. So whenever when somebody come, I just know it's like, okay, I got to find my mirror ball bag. It's quick. And now I don't carry mirror balls anymore. So it's like, I don't, and if I don't run some specific lights, I don't have any Ariba cases with me. So yeah, it's like, okay, now I got to find a way to handle cards. So yes, having that on the backpack would be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what do we have for questions or thoughts or in the chat rooms here? Facebook it's been pretty quiet here.
So I was seeing questions on Maui 5 Go quality. What's our opinions on the quality of that speaker on sound output?
Sure.
Personally, I'm pretty impressed with the sound output quality on those. The dispersion being array, basically, it's got a very wide dispersion, and the clarity that I've noticed when doing ceremonies with these instrumentals and stuff like that you can really notice the clarity of the sound output is pretty phenomenal. I've been blown away lately listening to it. When you get into more dance, punchy music, I mean, you only got an 8-inch sub to work with there, so you're not going to get much punch out of it. So it does lack a little bit in the low end, but that's, again, not really entirely the purpose of that speaker. So
for sure, and I think that's the big thing we need to leave everybody with is that for the right application, that's a fabulous tool. And it won't work for every application. It has a very, very specific use. And if you're trying to use it as a main sound system, to even two of them as a main sound system, you're going to be grossly disappointed. But
unless it's like 50 people or less at that gig, you're going to be kind of disappointed.
Yeah, exactly. But still, a great tool in the right application. It would be for that time when the wedding, the power in the room dies, and basically you've got your laptop and your battery-powered speaker. Can you be
and your battery-powered lights?
Yeah. Can you be the superhero? Oh, yes, you can. We were the only wedding that survived, and we partied for another 5 hours. Yeah. So keep that in mind. The battery backup stuff is really cool to have at times when you're in situations like that. All right. What else do we have?
I also noticed questions about the JBL's version of the line array speaker. I'm assuming because everyone knows I have tons of JBL speakers. So
that would be the JBL 1?
Yeah, the Eon 1 Pro. So the Pro is the battery powered, and then the regular Eon 1 is the non-powered one. I've heard it for how much they're charging for it, which is, I believe it's over $1,400 right now, is the market price on it. It's not really worth it. It does have a pretty beefy mixer in the back of it. I think it's got like 6 or 7 line channels on it. So if you're a little musician and that's something you need a mixer for and all built in one, it's awesome. But personally, for the money, if you're a DJ, I didn't see it being worth it. And I listened to it, and I put the Maui's clarity higher than that speaker. Now that's the Pro, that's the battery powered one. I didn't actually get to listen to the non-powered one, but I will soon because I'm going back to Ohio tomorrow, and Chris, the DJ associate, just picked up 2 of them, and he's been calling me and bragging about them. So,
you're good to have some hands-on time. Good.
We'll see.
Very nice.
Let's see. Ben Gordon asked specifically me, he tagged me on it. 2 tops, 1 sub setup. Do I run tops through my sub or vice versa? Currently, right now, I use the DriveRec PA2, but if you don't have a DriveRec PA2 and you don't have anything that does crossovers externally, you would definitely want to run your input through your sub to your top so that you can use the high pass out feature in the sub, or sometimes the tops also have a high pass out feature so that you are not pushing all of those bass notes below 80 hertz, 100 hertz from your tops, so that your tops have a little bit more breathing room to get a little bit louder, and your subs will fill in that bass area.
And most of the modern powered speakers have that capability where they're rolling off those frequencies and they've got that crossover built in on the input signal side of it as opposed to the other side. I think the biggest area that when a person's dealing with it, when you got your drive rack and you're doing that, you can mix and match brands in your situation if you wanted to. Sometimes when you're trying to mix and match, let's say you're wanting to use a Serwin Vegas sub with an EV top or JBL top. Some of those speakers are designed that where the cutoff point, let's say I wanted to set the roll off point or the crossover at 100. Well, one of them may have it where it gets to 100 and then it basically is shutting everything off beyond that. And the other one might be where it's getting to 100 and then it rolls everything off beyond that. And sometimes, depending upon how they work those roll-offs and cutoffs and such and how drastic they are, they may not match up that well. So there's just some little nuances with when you're doing those mixing and matching areas. And you're best if you need to do that, invest in that external crossover like what Rick what he has.
Mm-hmm. So Day and Night asked another question about the Maui 5 Go. Is the perfect speaker for ceremony / and/or cocktail hour? And you hit that right on the head there, man. That is exactly what that speaker is for. I think John can test that.
I would agree. I would agree that is a fabulous speaker, because if you need to move it for some reason because there's it's too close to the head table and you're having a mic issue, you can do that.
And the big selling point that, or at least that I tell people, is this is a speaker that you can go to a battery powered ceremony, then literally unplug whatever it is, grab your iPad or whatever you want to Bluetooth to the speaker, grab it, take it right up to the cocktail hour and start playing music. Yeah. And the battery will be good for the whole entire time. Yeah. You don't have to worry about it. And
just about as long as it took Rick to explain that is about how long it takes to do that.
it's quicker than that.
Yeah, they are a nice tool, that's for sure.
I don't know if you can answer this. I can't really. How much clean output do Bass Boss DV12s versus the big speaker manufacturers?
Bass Boss, I think, is to a point. In DJ speakers, Bass Boss is in a different realm, I think. I think Bass Boss is getting closer to the concert level sound systems that
small to mid level concert level.
Small to mid level, yeah. They're headed in that direction. They're closer to that than they are to DJ speakers, and that's even going to Electro Voice with their top of the JBL with their top of the line DJ speakers. Bass Boss is above that in sound pressure and such. Money wise, they also cost that. There's no question about it. You're paying a lot for that. Most DJs do not need to be that loud. I mean, there are some, don't get me wrong. I, as a wedding DJ who only does a few school dances, I don't need to have that kind of a sound pressure. And some DJs who have that kind of sound pressure like to abuse that sound pressure. So if you're that way, it may not be the greatest speaker for you if you like to just play it as loud as they possibly can go, because speaking from DJ Expo, when I'm sitting in the other end of the convention area and I can hear the Bass Boss on the other side of the area, yeah, Bass Boss has a lot of bottom end, has a lot of sound pressure capability beyond what you'll find in most DJ speakers.
So Big Block Entertainment asked, so you got the Evolve 50s, which accept Bluetooth. You got the LD Maui 5 Go that now accepts Bluetooth. So you're starting to see these trends of Bluetooth speakers out there. He wants to know if we found a way to run Serato through Bluetooth versus using XLR. And I think that more or less comes down to what you're using for your computer. Your computer could, if it has Bluetooth output, you should be able to use Bluetooth over to it.
Yeah, on your Mac, yeah, you could easily on our Macs go and select a Bluetooth out, but then we lose a lot of potential.
True.
With our controllers. I mean, my controller has a better sound card than Bluetooth for surely. So, I mean, we lose that capability. If I were going to do something with Bluetooth and I wanted to Bluetooth to speakers, there are companies, and I don't know if there's any DJ-specific companies that are making this, but you can find them on Amazon, and they're a single transmitter that'll take a stereo signal, and it has basically two built-in Bluetooth transmitters. So you can transmit one signal that way and one signal, that kind of a thing. And that would get you Bluetooth stereo. Now, with Bluetooth, unless you're into Bluetooth 5, there's latency. There's going to be a little bit of lag. So if you're trying to beat mix to what you're hearing out there, you're not going to like it because there's that half of a beat off type of a thing. Mm-hmm. But overall, I mean, we actually use a device like that. My son has set up an area where he lifts weights. And we wanted to go out there, and we bought one of those little devices so that he could send the Bluetooth to 2 powered speakers. And we had, a cheap little $10 Bluetooth receiver on that one, and $10 receiver on that one. I believe that transmitter was like $20 or something, whatever it was. It was not breaking the bank, and did it, and it worked pretty well. So they exist in that field. I think we're going to see more things Bluetooth in 2019, just because that technology is coming along. And again, when we're seeing lighting controlling getting it, I think that the audio is going to make a big jump next year in that Bluetooth arena also.
Mm-hmm. I'm kind of on the non-using any wireless right now for main speakers. I can't take that chance yet. Secondary speakers, backfills, side fills, sure, I'll use wireless, but my main speakers, I'm not running wireless anytime soon right now.
My thought with that, I agree with you completely there, Rick, is that if there is a glitch and people would be able to, if it would be glaringly obvious, a side fill, if there's a little, if it goes out for a tenth of a second, people would be like, did I hear that right? Or was it like my ear pop or something? That if your front speakers go out at a high volume during the dance and all of a sudden it loses 2 beats in a measure, you'd be like, dude, yeah, I would agree. I wouldn't trust it in that realm yet.
Lag Freak asks, are JBL Eons any good?
And you're more of a JBL person. This is my opinion. You can tell me if I'm wrong. I think JBL speakers have a specific sound. I think if you would blindfold someone who has heard JBL speakers before, I think I could have JBL plus 2 other speakers, and you would be able to pick that JBL out of that lineup almost every time.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree 100% because you're gonna whatever one you don't notice whatever one has a flat sound that's JBL.
Yeah, they definitely have a very unique sound. And some people don't like that sound. There's just the reality of the situation is that some people like the big boomy bass of the old Cerwin-Vega earthquakes. They're like, oh, it's not bass unless it's that thing going on.
Yeah, heavy distorted.
Exactly. It's just a sound preference. Some of the less expensive lines of JBL are less expensive, and they may not have the quality and such of some of the mid to upper line. But if you are a fan of JBL speakers and you need some less expensive speakers for fill or for rental or something like that, I think you'd be completely happy with any of the JBL speakers, because I've had the more expensive ones here and I've had the less expensive ones here, and they all sound decent. It's just what application do you want to use them with, and I think that really becomes the big thing.
I will say on my personal side, because I have owned the JBL Eons, I've owned the PRXs, I own the SRXs now, and I own VRX speakers, so I own a lot of the JBL lines. The Eon, it's first off, it's a 6-year-old model now. The Bluetooth software on it is very dated at this point. They haven't updated it. I had a decent amount of issues with it. I don't really recommend that speaker too much anymore. Just because it's shown its age now. It does have a good output. It has really good SPL. It's clean output. You can EQ it and make it sound good, and it'll work perfectly fine for your preference. In fact, my buddy that I sold my 2 Eons to still uses them, and I just went back and I've listened to them still to this day, and they still sound great. It's just, and they haven't really dropped the money. They haven't dropped the amount of money they're charging for them over the years. So personally, I get EV ZLXs over them. That's what I recommend right about now.
Sure. And that's coming from someone who's actually touched them and played with them in the field. I've only done office things with them. So good. Yeah. Thank you. That's good to hear, because I don't get to take speakers out into the field as often as I would like to, because they send them out and they're like, okay, do a video on this, and then I need them back in 2 weeks.
I've been very lucky that the ones I have worked with have let me keep them. So
excellent.
it helps when you have a lot of friends that own a lot of speakers. I'm working on doing some comparisons and stuff out in the field here.
And most of my friends have the same speakers. It's like, okay, hey guys,
sucks.
I just bought the Evolves. Well, I did too. I did too. Okay, great. Thank you. We're going to just echo each other all day long.
I've got quite a different ones right here. I got some ZLXs. I got a dude that owns Evolve. I got a QSC guy. Then I got all the JBL you could ever want over here.
Oh, nice.
So
nice.
Yeah, we got quite a bit of variety over here, and we're trying to make some videos here in the future comparing these speakers out in the field.
Let's see. We got probably time enough for one more, and we're going to have to wrap up here because I think we're down to the point where we're down to Matthew at the bottom there talking about the control. Yep. Do you any control S4?
I don't really know what that is.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it either. Matthew, sorry, I can't help you out with that particular Native Instruments device. I bet after NAMM, because that's exactly the area in which my Michael is wanting to go live in that area, in that vicinity of NAMM. I'll be in the DJ, the lights and the speakers, and he wants to go and talk about controllers and audio interfaces and different things for producing music. So I bet you he'll run across that. But
when is NAMM?
NAMM's January 23rd, somewhere in that ballpark is where, and we're going to be doing a lot of things coming out. Live streaming from out there and bringing videos. We're going to be trying to do more videos from the show, whether it's live streams during the show, or if we have to, we're going to go back to the hotel, because we found out last time we actually have a really good internet connection at the hotel we're at, and we can upload things. It's just I wasn't prepared last year to do that. So we live and learn. So. Well, gang, we're going to wrap things up because we've got to get our next show up here in just a few minutes. Rick, thank you much for your time tonight. This was kind of fun to hang out and chat a little bit, and we'll have to get back together as we get closer to NAMM. I'd love to as we get more information and such from the different manufacturers, get kind of our pre-NAMM insights a little bit and talk more.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So if you guys, if you haven't go out to YouTube, you can go and search for Rick Webb out on YouTube, and he's got a great channel out there. Does a lot of videos, gear review, and things, and he's out there. Do you have the custom URL for that?
I can't remember what it is exactly. It's like DJ Rick or something. Okay. But all you gotta do is search Rick Webb. I'm the first result. You don't need DJ Rick Webb.
Excellent. So yeah, go out there, check in, subscribe to his YouTube channel, watch the videos. He's got a lot of great content out there, and he'll show you things you probably didn't know about when it comes to gear. So Rick, once again,
we're looking at mixing here soon.
Sweet.
How to mix, basics.
Nice. That'll be cool. I'd be interested to see that. I like learning what you younger guys are doing and how you do it, because you guys have grown up with it where I didn't grow up with it. So there's things you guys are like, oh, that's so cool. I was busy playing with rocks and sticks when I was young. Anyway. All right. Thank you much, Rick. We'll catch you guys later. We'll back in with Brian and Ben in about 15 minutes.
Nice. See you guys.